Well, so then Geppetto shows up, and he's a kindly old guy, which is pretty much exactly what you'd expect, and you know, he's a careful craftsman, and he likes kittens, and you know, that's always a good thing. And he has some fish, and you know, he's good at making things, and he's got a sense of humor, and he's kind of playful, and so he's the good father, fundamentally. He's the wise king, he's the positive archetype of the masculine. And that's what he is, and so he's culture in its positive manifestation, and he gives rise to this creation, which is his puppet, which is what culture does, because you're a puppet of your culture, you're a marionette of your culture. And so maybe you could be more than that. And that's the other thing that's strange about this movie, and it's strange about the mythological way of looking at the world, because scientifically, deterministically, there's nature and there's culture. And you are the deterministic product of the interaction between nature and culture. There's nothing else to you than that. That's that. But the mythological world doesn't say that. It says something different. It says that there's nature and culture, and then there's you. And the you that's in there has choices and a destiny, and that you actually affect the interplay of nature and culture in determining your own character. And it insists upon that. The oldest stories we have, there's always the hero and the archetypal mother and the archetypal father. There's always those three things. There's never just two. So from the narrative perspective, there's always the implication that there's something autonomous about the hero of the story. And you know, you can't account for that. We don't have a good way of accounting for that from a scientific perspective. I was having a discussion with Sam Harris the other day, which was very, what would you say? He said we got wrapped around an axle, which is pretty much, Sam Harris is one of the four famous, you know, atheists, along with Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and Dan Dennett, yeah. And so we were having a discussion, and he's a determinist, just right down to the bottom. It's like you're determined, there's no free will, you're a deterministic machine. And you know, if you're a coherent scientist and you're a Newtonian, roughly speaking, you don't really have much choice other than to think that way, but that isn't how it seems to people, and we don't treat each other that way. And our entire legal system is predicated on the idea that you do in fact have free will. So well, can we account for it? Well, no. And do we have a scientific model for it? No. But then I would also say we do not have a scientific model for consciousness. We don't know a damn thing about consciousness, which is why Dan Dennett's book, which was called Consciousness Explained, was referred to by its critics as Consciousness Explained Away, which is exactly right as far as I'm concerned, because he took a mechanistic approach, and I just don't think you get to do that, because there's something really weird about consciousness. I mean, the phenomenologists like Heidegger, who tried to radically transform Western philosophy right from the bottom up, he basically said, well, you know, you can treat the world as if consciousness is primary, and that human experience is reality, that's reality, and that it doesn't exist independently of consciousness in any explicable way. It's like, well, what's out there if there's nothing to experience it? Well, everything at once. It's something like that. It's not really comprehensible. As without a subject, the subject defines it and makes it real. Now, you don't have to believe that, but at least I'm telling you that there are thoroughly coherent philosophical positions that make that case very strongly, and that allow consciousness to exist as a phenomena and to take it seriously. And you certainly act like you take it seriously. You act like there's a you, and that you make choices, and you certainly treat other people that way. Deterministic or not, you're still going to get angry when they're being, you know, rude to you, and you're going to act as if they had some choice in the matter. Now maybe that's an illusion, possibly, but maybe it's not. And I would say the oldest stories that we have always include that as not only a fundamental element, but even as
the angels record everything that we do. Allah doesn't need angels, but He's created a world of asbab. You have efficient cause, you have formal cause, you have different type material cause, you have different types of causes. Allah is in reality the efficient cause of everything. He is the one that causes everything in reality. And in fact, if you take an extreme occasionalist Ash'ari view, there is no real causation in the world. That's the Ash'ari view, which is probably being substantiated by modern physics in a lot of ways. Hume was the first person in the West to kind of recognize the possibility that causation is just the mind associating cause and effect. But Allahu a'lam, that's what I was taught. لا يقال يقطع بالسكين ومثله يقال في التسخين فإن فعله له بواسطة أحاله أولو العقول الضابطة. Don't say the knife cuts, don't say fire burns, because that his action should have any intermediary is something that people of intellect understand to not be true. That Allah is the direct cause of all things. And so everything has been written in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. What Allah has given us according, and this is the dominant view, this is what the Imam al-Tahawi puts forward, this is what Abu Bakr al-Baqallani, Imam al-Maturidi, Imam al-Ash'ari, I mean, most of the Imams of Kalam and Tawheed, Usul al-Din, put forward the idea of kasb, that really what we have is we earn through our intentions, but actions and everything else is directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is the one that in any instant is giving you your istita'ah. And Imam al-Tahawi in his Tahawiyya talks about two types of istita'ah. The istita'ah that is related to actions at the time of the action, and that is from Allah directly. And then there's the istita'ah that is your ability that precedes the action, and that is what you are taken to account for. It's your abilities that precede an action. The action itself is from Allah, and we believe that everything is maktub in that way. But we're not determinists, and we're not pure free will. It's between the two. If you want a very simplistic but quite brilliant presentation of this, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu was once asked about, is al-insan mukhayyar am musayyar? Is he free or determined? And this is a big debate in the history of Islam. And Imam Ali told him, lift your right leg, and he lifted his right leg. And he said, now without putting it down, lift your left leg. And he said, I can't. He says, between the two. You know, that we have volition, and yet we have constraints that are determined. Allah determined our form. He determined the levels of intellect we have. He determined our parents. He determined our socioeconomic status as we came into the world. There are many things that were they're just outside of our capacity entirely. But all of our experience in the world tells us that we are volitional agents, that we have agency. And this is what this is what's written, ma qaddamu. What you bring forward to God. It's your volition, your agency. You have irada. God has given you irada, and that's why we believe that people are responsible for their actions. Unless rufi' an al-qalam, rufi' al-qalamu an thalath. There's three that the pen has been raised up from: the sleeper until he wakes up, the sick person if he's mad or something like that,